Excellent.
There we go.
It's in progress. Very good. Thank you very much, Alex. Good evening, everybody. And thank you so much for coming to this workshop. It feels very strange to be saying good evening, of course, because it's 10 o'clock in the morning here, but not to worry. Thank you for coming and for spending an hour of your evening here. I'm Terry Lamb, and just a couple of things about me. Alex asked me to introduce myself. I think the main thing is that I spent 16 years teaching in secondary schools at the start of my career, mainly in London and mainly in multilingual classrooms, and that has influenced all of my work ever since. So I was teaching languages, I was teaching French and German, I even taught some Turkish for a while and some Spanish. But after that, since then, I've been working first in initial teacher education and then obviously continuing professional development. And I now work on teacher education for the lecturers across the university, the professors across the University of Westminster, where I'm based. I would say that throughout all of my career, I've been very committed to multilingualism, supporting multilingual classrooms. I do have I run workshops across Europe, funded by the European Centre for Modern Languages, the Council of Europe and the European Union, and that they are called Supporting Multilingual Classrooms. I also work very closely with supplementary schools and always have done, even when I was teaching in schools, mainstream schools. And I'm currently the trustee, one of the trustees of the National Resource Centre for Supplementary Education in London. So that really is just to let you know who I am and who you're listening to. But thank you so much to the New South Wales Fédération of Community Language Schools, and in particular Alex, for inviting me to speak to you. I hope you're all doing well. I know that you've gone back into lockdown. This period has just been incredibly challenging and in many ways very, very, very tragic. But I suppose one thing that we've seen is that people have become increasingly creative, and in particular teachers, in terms of finding ways of ensuring that their learners continue to learn and to have creative experiences. So as part of my presentation, I've included some of this creativity that's been going on in supplementary education during lockdown, as part of my attempt to pull together as many ideas as I had time for. I had many, many more, and I've discarded some, not just from my own experience, but obviously all of the teachers I work with and all the student teachers. Some will be quite simple, quite basic activities that you can do very easily. Some will be more complex. A lot may not be new to you. I mean, I know how creative supplementary school teachers are, so that may not be new to you, but sometimes when you hear something, you can give it a twist and think of another way of doing that, and it can stimulate other ideas as well. Plus, all of this is being recorded, so you will have a resource to share with your friends and colleagues as well. And for that reason, I'm asking you really to kind of get used to sharing ideas in the chat. We only have an hour, it's not very long. So the more ideas, you know, if I say something that's similar to what you've done, say something brief about it in the chat. There will be a breakout session later on, but you know, there won't be a lot of time to collect all of the clearly ideas that you'd be sharing. So as much as possible in the chat, that can be saved and sent around as well. I think as a warm-up, what I'd like you to do in terms of chat is to share in the chat, in the discussion, any words or short phrases that occur to you when you that creativity, the concept of creativity conjures up for you, or things that, you know, how it relates to your teaching, to your practice. Any words at all that just jump out at you about creativity. They can be very simple, but if you could start typing in there, that would be great. Thank you. And I can see, thanks to Alex, your what you're writing. Now I'm going to share my screen. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Where is it? There we go. It's popped up now. Okay. Very good. Now I need to do that to see your chat. Good. Okay. So I can see some ideas are coming in there. Let me just minimize the photos and I can see that more. We've got drawing craft. I put some images on the screen that randomly found by doing a Google search on creativity for additional inspiration. So we've got things around crafts and art and craft and those kinds of things. Do carry on, have a look at these pictures. Do they strike you as, you know, did they bring back any, and bring forward any other ideas that you may have? I'll give you a few more seconds to contribute to that. We've got fun. Yeah, it's not easy to sort of move the cursor onto these messages. So, but I can see messages coming in, but I can't see them all, but not to worry. Thank you. Let's carry on doing that. There's lots of them coming in. I wish I could see them all now. I'm stuck. The last one I can see is art and craft from Asma. So I'm not sure why. Ah, there we are. The cursor disappeared. Yes, see, making sense of what there is, exercising oral skills. So kind of, you know, not just arts and crafts, but obviously things around the language, mix and recombine, mixing languages, being creative with the language that we know, using it for different purposes. So lots and lots of ideas coming through there. And I think that's just quite important to acknowledge. There's a screen here that's also got some other words. A few pointers that kind of come out of workshops that I've done in this. And if we were together and we had longer, we could get more from you. I think some of the things you've been saying is that creativity is about arts, but not just about arts. It's also about business, technology. I mean, it goes across life. So it's across all subjects that we're teaching, not just necessarily art. I think another misconception of creativity is that it's about creative geniuses. You know, we think of those amazing artists or whatever, but actually, as we've seen, it's also about the kind of everyday language that, you know, we're creative when we use language to say something new. It can be short, it can be simple, it can be a different way of doing things, it can be a different way of thinking about something, and use very simple language. I think the other thing is, I'd like to say, is that people have argued that children are born creative and that very often life, including education, knocks it out of them. You know, in my work with teachers, I don't think that is the case always. But on the last image that you saw, you see the on-off switch. I think that sort of is a reminder that we need to switch on creativity. In other words, we need to give spaces for children to be creative, for playing, for exploring, for taking risks. And we can find different ways as teachers of doing that. And there'll be some examples today. I think it's also many reasons why some people might have said why we bother doing creative activities. I mean, this isn't exactly the right slide for that, but there are a few things there about, you know, how it helps us to produce new ideas, new knowledge. I just want to mention motivation is very important. Creativity is obviously enhancing motivation as well, and innovation. But I want to really just to sort of mention the mind, because what we know is that creativity stimulates the brain. It develops mindfulness, self-awareness, and identity, and well-being. And I mention that now because obviously these days are difficult with the pandemic. And so creativity is a way of really helping and supporting well-being. Please continue to comment, share your ideas, and as I say, they will be shared. So thank you. I can see that people are really engaging with that. If I say something, as I say, that triggers a thought or an idea that something you've done or would like to do, please put it in there. So briefly, I'm going to be talking about activities, some quite simple, some more complex for creativity in classrooms and of course beyond the classroom. And in so doing, I will also try to thread through some reference to underpinning principles. I'm not going to go into detail about them. I will just show examples of why it's important to allow children space to make decisions, to think for themselves, to be creative. So autonomy is really crucial. Authenticity, motivation, engagement, collaboration. These are some of the themes that will be threaded through. Also, the value of diversity for stimulating creativity, meeting things that you'd never met before. I've found in my teaching, why I love multilingual classrooms, is that you can really spark lots and lots of creativity and open minds. There'll be some time for sharing ideas and a few conclusions in the end. So, I'll just start with a reminder that creativity isn't just an add-on. It's not something you do as an end product of learning. It's not something that you do kind of just before the holidays, you know, and you might do something with a film or something. It's not something special for advanced learners. It's something that's an intrinsic part of our approaches to learning and teaching. And as I've suggested, it also involves learners taking control of their learning and playing autonomously, helping them to come up with their own new ideas, to organize themselves, to create something for themselves. And our job is to switch them on. So these are things that we've talked about. And I think a lot of you have heard Phil Benson talking about autonomy, probably others as well. I know that he did a workshop on autonomy, so I'm not going to go into that, but it is crucial for this. I'm going to show you some example, well, a quite simple example, first of all, of a creative activity. And this is the NRCSE website. What I've done throughout is provide the links so that when you have this, you'll be able to follow up some of the ideas that I don't have time to share very much on. So I'm going to start really with sharing a quite simple activity for young children. Okay, I hope you can now see the website. I just clicked onto that, and I'm going to show you just a minute or so of this, a minute and a half of this film, Number Duets. There are many other examples of things on this website. It's, as I say, it's the NRCSE, National Resource Centre for Supplementary Education, that have been doing a lot of work on creativity last year. So I can't make this bigger on the screen, I'm afraid, for some reason. The other videos I can.
In this activity, number duets, the children have already created their own number motif or gesture. The children work in pairs and they each have their own number. They're then asked to create a sum out of their two numbers. Okay, ready? Go, girls. Super. Lovely. Next, go. Make sure you get right to the middle of the circle. Chanel, right to the middle. Good girl. What I would like us to do now is to think about how else we can draw those letters. We've all been drawing the letters at the moment using our hands, making them as big as we can on that sheet of paper, and that was what I asked you to do. But how else might you, what other bits of your body might you use, how else might you describe those letters? Chanel?
Sorry, we can't hear the video.
Use a number with your head.
Yes. We can't see the video.
Lovely. Everyone know what Chanel was doing? Which one? Nahima?
We cannot see the.
Egg, yes, lovely. Good boy, well done. Kareem, what else might you do? With your
There's
leg.
no video.
Using your leg. Yeah. Was that a one? Yeah, very, very clear. Good
We
boy.
just hear voices, nothing.
Sorry, you can't hear anything.
We can't see it.
Sorry, Terry, there was no motion, there was no video.
Ah, right.
So it was just voice.
Okay. That's
Not sure if
interesting.
people are commenting in the chat. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Sorry, I'll try again. I'm really sorry about that. It worked when I did that last time, so let's find another.
Terry, that's
way to-
okay. Could I just say, yes, it did work. It's just a matter of sharing the other screen like we did
Yes,
before.
I know, that's what I've learned
The
in the
internet.
past, but when I
Yeah.
tried it with you before, it seemed to just do it.
Yes, it did. We can vouch for that.
So that's what I was trying to do, but I know that normally I've got it saved here anyway. Let's see. I'll just show you the start of it.
There we go.
Can you see that now?
Yes, yes, yes.
I'll
You
just show you
can't
the start because I'm really sorry.
In this
about
activity, number duets, the children have already created they each have their own number. They're then ready? Go, girls. Super. Lovely. Next, go. Make sure you get right to the middle of the circle. Chanel, right to the middle. Good girl. What I would like us to do now is to think about how else we can draw those letters. We've all been drawing the letters at the moment using our hands, making them as big as we can on that sheet of paper, and that was what I asked you to do. But how else might you, what other bits of your body might you use, how else might you describe those letters? Chanel, you could do as a number with your head. Lovely. Anyone know what Chanel was doing? Which one? Nahima? Was it 6?
Okay. So as we lost a bit of time, I'll just stop it there. But basically, I mean, it's very simple, obviously. Where that moves is that they try different ways. So they use their elbow, they use their shoulder, they use their knee to draw these numbers. And then they, in pairs, they start to do arithmetic. So they find the sign for plus or minus, and they do this. And when they're coming out, it starts to look like a dance. Yeah, so it becomes a dance where they're just using different body parts to do different numbers. Obviously, that can be adapted to letters, to all kinds of things, I think. But just a very, very engaging activity, I think, for something that is quite straightforward and simple. Okay, now I lost your chat. That was why I couldn't see your comments before about it. but I hope you managed to see that now. You can follow, you can get, sorry, yes, the link took you to also at the top of it, something called Artists Foundation, which is an arts foundation for education. And on there are also free resources. Yeah, so that particular clip at the start, when it's introduced, you'll find a link to Artists Foundation as well. So have a look at that for more inspiration. Okay, now I'd just like to mention that this, if you're wondering why you've got the core curriculum for Norway, I was invited last year to do a workshop for teachers in Norway because part of their new curriculum for primary and secondary involves creativity. This is one of the, what they call the core values, the joy of creating, engagement, and the urge to explore. And what I found very interesting about this, given also my research in learner autonomy as well, was the links between creativity and engagement, yeah, and with that the development of autonomy. So I've just highlighted some phrases there, which carry on supplementing our understanding of what creativity is. They're encouraged to see opportunities and transform their ideas into practical actions, to develop the urge to explore, to ask questions, to experiment, find different ways of exploring and creating, which means that they're going to be doing different things. Play is, of course, very creative and expressing themselves in different ways, solving problems, asking new questions. So I wanted just to do that, to highlight the importance of letting go, allowing children to have these experiences. And I learned about this relationship between creativity, autonomy, and motivation as a secondary school teacher very early in my career, teaching languages, which children in England don't always want to do. They're not really interested in learning French or German. They think everyone speaks English, so why bother? But I know it's similar in Australia. So, but what I found was by letting go, developing what I call flexible learning, where children had a lot of opportunity to make choices about what they did, that the achievement levels shot up, the motivation to continue learning even beyond the age of compulsion increased, and levels of creativity. It involved lots and lots of different activities. And so I'm going to talk through the kinds of activities that not only what I drew on, because obviously at the start of my career, we didn't have the internet and web pages, but a lot of the things that I did do, but also supplemented by other teachers and students. So it's important to, not only in our whole class presentation, to be creative, but to give opportunities for individual, pair work, group work. Drama is really useful, of course. Drama can be very simple. It can be about miming something. The children were miming a number in a way, but it could be miming a sport. It could be miming an emotion and getting children to guess what this is. Very simple. And then dialogues you all use, developing sketches, which can be recorded or not. They can be filmed or not. They can be improvised or not, but drama is really, really important for allowing some kind of creativity and making things real. It can involve imaginary contexts. Sort of doing this particular dialogue on another planet is always very popular with children. So yeah, drama important. And I used to use a lot of what we called realia in the old days. So all of those things, tickets and leaflets and stuff you pick up when you're traveling. Now, of course, we have the internet, but that was a way of giving them things that they could use in their drama to make it feel more kind of real. Performance also, I remember, a group of children, when we've been doing clothes, decided to put on a fashion show, and they brought clothes from home and they did this fashion show describing what was going on with background music. Interviews sounds as though it could be quite dull, but if you allow students to develop the questions, research, and then write or record a radio interview about whatever they want, with whoever they want. It could be somebody famous, it could be somebody invented, it could be someone, a Martian, again, very popular, asking them about their hobbies. But, that again, those sorts of interviews can be made very, very creative. Posters, of course, they can do their research on a particular person, a historical person, for example, and develop a poster around that. Stories, I'm sure you use stories all the time. Very important to have diverse voices, diverse stories. Always I would have a box of books and magazines that they could go and get, some sort of easy things for them to read. But also, giving them a bag with 6 objects in, small objects as a group, and saying, create a story that brings in these objects. Again, allowing them to develop their own stories. Puzzles, not just doing them, but creating puzzles. Do them first, then adapt and create. That can be used by other classes, and that's something that I'll talk about later, having an audience. You build up your teaching resource if they do them properly and make them lovely make them look good. Music, obviously, cultural awareness and enjoyment. Sometimes I would use it for gap filling. I would have the script, take out some of the words, and they had to listen very carefully. Even sometimes on grammar points. I remember a French song that had lots of futures in it. So I took them all out and they had to put them back in by listening to the song. Developing web pages or blogs. One of the activities I used to do was get the children in groups to research something about maybe their town, maybe what there was for young people to do, for tourists to do, and produce a leaflet. They can now produce a web page or something around that. But again, it's something that they need to make it look good and attractive. Lots and lots of apps, and it would be really great if you could share some of the apps that you find useful in your schools, because we could have a whole session on apps. And then mind maps and poems, again, really valuable, simple mind maps, but actually just involving vocabulary. This is all around the word happy. And you'll see that, whatever people have thought about this group, they've created a mind map around that. And then poetry, of course. This is a very simple poem that was written by a 13-year-old that takes the pattern hello, goodbye. So hello, morning, goodbye, sleep. Hello, homework, goodbye, freedom. Hello, Christmas, goodbye, money. And so it carries on until the last 2 lines. Hello, handsome boy, goodbye, heart. So they're very, very simple, just using vocab, but they can actually get, really interesting thoughts in there. You'll see that there's a link to a website that has lots of poems about cats. The cat shape, again, quite simple language. This is concrete poetry, where you make the poem look, reflect the meaning. So once I was only very small, oops, and now I've got the chat in front, but basically, but now I'm taller than taller, and up it goes, and all of these repetition of tall, again, very, very creative and simple language. Acrostic poems that can just have words, cats. Cat haiku poem, short phrases, allowing their imaginations to choose the language that is most creative for them. I'd like to say something about authenticity as well, and stimulated really by Jimmy, who was a boy in one of my early research projects, who wrote this. He'd been doing German for some time, but never felt he was really using it. And then he says, you know, once I felt I was really using it when we were doing this thing for the university, and we had to do either a cartoon strip or a letter. We had this like Star Trek type cartoon strip that got put in the university. So I felt it was really I was really using it. It had to be good so people could understand it. That was the first time I ever thought I was really using it, not just for the sake of it. So the authenticity was doing this for a real purpose, a bit like, you know, the leaflets for the tourists and for an audience. So these elements of purpose and audience, try and remember that. And also cartoons, of course, another type of activity. They can start with an existing cartoon, remove the bubbles, they can insert the language, and then they can create their own cartoons. Another one of the principles that I talked about is collaboration, and how collaborative learning helps us to stimulate creativity, including new ideas and rethinking some of our own and developing them further. I want to share two pieces of research, actually, just to sort of show what this collaborative, creative learning does for children. So the first one is by Vali Laitra in London, who worked with Turkish children, and what they did was they adapted a traditional children's song. They worked collaboratively to decide how to perform it by drawing on a whole range of what we might call semiotic resources, so clapping, whistling, humming, changing the rhythm, etc. So simply adapting a song to make it their own help them to become connected to this song. The second one there is Anderson, Jim Anderson in London, and Anderson and Chung, in a study of community language learning in 4 schools, 2 supplementary, 2 mainstream, where activities including dance, song, drama, puppetry, another one, as well as the creation of artworks, films, scrapbooks, were developed by the teachers and the learners together, building on the practices that they already had in their Arabic, Chinese, Punjabi and Tamil classes. There were four different languages there. What I wanted to say was that the evaluation of this showed how they provided children with opportunities for dynamic interaction with their heritage and their culture, multiliteracy development, challenge, cognitive challenge, teamwork and collaboration, moral dimensions came out of that, but also enhanced motivation and a greater capacity for learner autonomy. It also, as you can see in the quote, like Leitra's, gave the children the opportunity to interact with the words in their own terms, to reinvent and reinterpret them for themselves. Another simple example of collaboration, pair work, is 6-word stories, and you'll see a link to some examples of these. But these you can start with, give them a 6-word story. You'll find examples on website. And what in pairs, they then look at this: one bride, 2 words, first regret. This girl has created that 6-word story. But in pairs, they can talk about who did they think it is, where is it, when did they think it was happening, how did they feel. They can read it using different emotions, and then they can produce their own. So again, it's this idea of switching it on, some inspiration, but then letting them run with that. Technology and creativity. Supplementary schools have been amazing in lockdown. Last summer, I supported a young intern at the NRCSE, Iman Bahmanabadi, to do a search of social media to find out some of the activities that the supplementary schools were doing to enable their learners to continue during lockdown. They weren't allowed to move. A lot of it was around song and music, but I was struck by the food, very popular. So in one example, they were learning about fruit and vegetables and how they grow. And children drew details of the process. And they even grew some of their own at home to kind of engage physically with this whole thing. So food and thinking ways around that. Photographs and paintings. One of the things that they did lots of online quizzes as well. I wanted to mention that. So remember, I'm sure you've all been doing lots of online quizzes using apps where you can create them like Kahoot or Slido. But they also found tasks that didn't require learners to spend a lot of time online. So for example, Shpresa, which is the Albanian supplementary school, got the children to find old photos, old paintings, and then recreate them themselves and take photos of them and upload them to the website and share. And then when they'd done that, they produced a written description in their home language of it. And they found out something about the artists if it was a piece of artwork. You know, so they turned that into, you know, it could be turned into something that involved literacy, or it could be something that was spoken. There's another one there, the three, this was a little family and they got together to recreate that. Wonderful. Looking at the time, I will just share then this very quickly, just so you know what it is. The American Council for Teachers of Foreign Languages, it's a teacher association in the States, and they developed this whole package of ideas, some around creativity and innovation, and you can see it's organized at novice, intermediate and advanced level. All of this is freely available on the website. So you've got the link there. But for example, a simple one there, about recreating a familiar story into the target language, culture, and bringing in aspects of the target culture, retelling it with visuals using narrated presentation or other software, sharing and discussing stories with others. And then there's something there about looking for online recipes and changing them to something healthier. Yeah, but many, many examples there, some simple, some less so. And before we go into groups, I'm very quickly going to show you this. Again, you can find this website, the link is there. It's the Critical Connections Project, which is again about collaboration, but this time across linguistic backgrounds. This is a project set up in 2012 by Goldsmiths College, so it's been running for some time. And it brings together children learning languages as foreign languages, community languages, and English as an additional language in the UK, but in 6 other countries as well. And each year the students create digital stories in bilingual versions on a range of genre, documentary, science fiction, fantasy, traditional tales, etc. So many, and you can look at a lot of these. It was very ambitious, but I think it shows what children can do. And also it was done in collaboration between supplementary schools, mainstream schools, and university. So, you know, this is a slightly more ambitious project. But I did want to share one particular, just the start of this one, if you don't mind. Right. So I think I better share this again now. Let's share something else. Let's have a look. Where is it? There. and there's a film sample, but all of this, they're all available on Vimeo. And I just wanted to show you this one here, the start of it. I hope you can hear. Somebody shout if you can't see or hear.
今天我们学了中国的城市和名胜古迹，中国真的大极了。如果我自己一个人去中国的话，我将会很容易迷路。现在很晚了，睡觉了，明天还有上学。这是在哪？欢迎来北京。我怎么来北京了呢？好兴奋哦！我在北京，耶！我要去看长城。
Okay, so that was just a taste, obviously, and there is another one which I would have loved to share, but you do have the link to it, which is the next one, but we don't have the time. So this one, which is Abandonné, which is really moving, and it uses kind of a very interesting technique, but you'll see there's drawings, there's these plasticine dolls, stopgap animation. That is just a wonderful story about friendship between a Syrian girl and a French girl, Syrian girl running away from Syria. So really, really moving, but using quite simple language as well. There's also this link here, also from Goldsmith, the same project, where they use museum resources. So there's some inspiration there for you as well. What I would like, though, and I know we don't have a huge amount of time, but maybe about 7 minutes or so to go into groups and just sort of, you know, share with one another. I would say fairly small groups, about 5, because you don't have a lot of time. But all of you try and share some idea that you've used in your classroom that's been successful and why you think it was successful. But just talk, share really. It's about sharing some of your practice would be great. And then we'll just listen to 1 or 2 when you come back. I know that Alex is going to put you into groups.
Are we ready to go now?
We'll do that in about 7 minutes. So
Okay, shall we go now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And I'd just like a couple of... Pardon?
That was recording in progress.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just very,
I thought it was a question.
just very quickly, Terry, Demetrios here in Sydney. We're just
Hello,
saying in my
Demetrios.
group that online teaching is not going to be an easy thing in Sydney, as we're going to be in lockdown situations. So you've got to be innovative and very engaging as best as you can be, and do the best that you can to engage students who would have had their morning session with their normal day school with all the Zoom and all the other platforms, and then they do their community languages in the afternoon. And you've got to be extra innovative and extra engaging because of the whole day that they would have preceded before. Sorry, and I finished there.
No, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I think there's two things. I mean, some of the activities can be translated into online. So, for example, the one with the numbers and miming, if you go to that website, they'll explain that that's also being done online, and they kind of pass numbers on from the different screens, you know, so some things can be done. But I think, you know, the message from Spritzer with those photos, for example, was really interesting as a way of kind of enabling learners to do creative tasks without always being on screen as well. You know, so stimulating them to do some kind of work like that, some project. You know, I think that's really important to remember, because it is very tiring on screen all the time. That's why I'm so impressed that so many of you have come today at the end of your day, but thanks for that. Okay, anyone else want to say anything or ask a question before I finish?
Sorry, I just wanted to, I guess, encourage people to, because a lot of time we give sort of excuses as to why we can't do these things, because we have too much to do, and there is no time, and the kids don't want to do it. And I think the more we embed it into the actual learning, the more successful it is likely to be. So you're not doing a project or a creative activity on top of what you would normally teach, but you teach through doing the activities. So it's part of the or the purpose of the learning almost.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's a very important thing you said is, you know, that we can spend a lot of time preparing and things, which is why it's so important to have little ideas as well. You know, things that you would do that you can just do a little bit differently. You know, that doesn't involve preparing all kinds of things and resources and stuff for the web. You know, but you know, just simple things that you can do differently. Practicing things with different emotions, for example, is very creative, and it really embeds learning in the brain. So yeah, I mean, look after yourselves as well, I think is what I would say. Thank you for that. I really wish I had longer with you, and I wish I was with you. But I'm not going to do these. I'm just going to say I put these here so that you can have a look, because you will get this whole pack. But this is something I do with multilingual classrooms, where they talk about and share their languages, share the scripts, share, you know, and teach one another, and all kinds of things around language awareness. City centre festivals, having, you know, really worked in schools about developing openness to multilingualism, I've then done it in cities as well. So, you know, setting up some stalls, setting up an exhibition, getting my students, they were two of my PhD students there in Sheffield. But, you know, there's the programme for you to see. Some of the activities you could see there, and an interactive exhibition. So just take a look. There are a few examples of the ways in which children have responded to this, and they would come along to the stall and complete it and colour it in. All of the materials were available. So very creative, but really helping conversations about languages and why they make a difference, why they're important, and lovely, lovely things for you to look at later. But this was the funny one, because this says my favorite language is Chinese, because I get to travel to different places, especially China, which is a big country. Many toys are made in China. I can order from McDonald's in Chinese without making a fool of myself. So I love that one. That's Billy Joan. Okay, so to draw to a conclusion, I thought it was good to quote Iman, you know, the young man that I worked with on the creativity project, who talks, and this is actually on that NRCSE website. There's a link to his blog. He sees creativity as a means of learning through developing a personal understanding of the material in any subject. But then his mother runs an Iranian supplementary school. It's all the more vital in supplementary schools. Creativity actively seeks the participation of the student, and in doing so, they not only develop ideas, but a sense of who they are as they're being welcomed to use their own cognition and to form an identity for themselves. I speak on behalf of personal experience in that I grew up in high school. However, I was raised by my supplementary school, as it gave me that space to see who I was within the greater context of my own community. You can read the quote in its entirety, the blog in its entirety at that link below. So really, you know, I wanted Iman to have almost the last word there. But just as a summary, really, I think we've seen how creativity benefits from being given space to be creative, and space to be autonomous, and encouragement, having something that triggers it, that switches it on. We believe a belief and a trust in our learners. We mustn't underestimate our learners. Autonomy, they need to have space to be able to make choices. Authenticity, we talked about purpose and audience, about the value of collaboration for stimulating creativity, and technology, which affords so many opportunities. Diversity, I only just touched on a little bit, but the ways in which we can learn by collaborating across supplementary schools, across mainstream and supplementary education as well. And I think several comments refer to this last bullet point here. It's about opportunities to make meanings that matter to the learners, to make the language their own by using it to produce new ideas, to bring their own identities into the learning process. Thank you so much. Do watch some of those little movies. They're not long, the Abandonné, and watch the rest of the Chinese. Follow up on some of those links. And I've also provided some references at the end in case any of you want to follow things up. But I'd just like to say thank you so much for all of your participation. I know a lot of it is on the chat, in the chat, but with an hour, it's difficult to organize too many breakout rooms. So, but thank you. I think you've been really sharing your ideas and thoughts there. There's a multilingual. Thank you for you all, and you'll see references there as well.
And thank you, Terry, and commiserations to England for losing the Euro Cup. Sorry about that. We're trying to
not to worry. It was a bit of a stressful evening, I must say, but I mean, I'm very British, so very English. So I just say, well, they did so well to get there. I mean, for goodness sake, they held their own against Italy. What more do we want? But
I won't make any comments. I won't make any comments there, Terry. But anyway, it was a great start to the day over here in Australia.
It was, Alex. Congratulations.
No, I mean, look, we're not going to talk soccer. Look, thank you so much, Terry. It was excellent. I just want to remind everybody that Terry's work will be made available to you in those links that I did provide. He's so generously given us his PowerPoint in also to be made available to you, but it's all there in the video and in the YouTube link. So once again, everybody, thank you for attending. Good luck to everybody in these next couple of weeks. And Terry, all the very best. I hope you have a great rest, because Terry's been very, very busy with his PhD students and other things. And it's time to stop. Okay, yes, everybody.
Thank you. Really, you know, take care of yourselves during this lockdown, please, and we'll get through it creatively.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on the 26th.
Yep.
On the 26th.
Good evening, everybody.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Bye.